Welcome to the After Chat. I'm Michael.
I'm Ellis.
And today we are going to be looking at some parables of Jesus. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Let's do it.
Welcome to the After Chat. Real questions. Real talk. Real life.
All right, so we're going to be looking at some parables here in a second. We're going to unpack all those, but I love this question here to kind of get us ready for some of these. So what's something that not many people know about your personality?
That I'm an introvert. I think when you do things like this on a regular basis, people are like, oh, he's an extrovert. Yeah, nope. My people battery is pretty small and runs out pretty fast. So
same.
Yeah.
That's definitely one for me as well. A lot of people, they're like, "There's no way." I was like, "No." Like, but after 2 or 3 hours of being around folks, I'm done. Like, I'm done. And if you really pay attention to me, like whenever I'm out, like in a public setting, my conversations might last a lot longer, but in the beginning of the evening, but as it goes on, my answers and all of my sentences get much more shorter, and by the end, I'm at 1 and 2. I don't think so, or nope, or yep, like that. I'm done.
Yeah,
like I'm done. Sundays, I need that decompression time, and it has to. Like 2 or 3 hours after Sunday, like I'm finished.
Yeah, I feel like I've gotten better at it over the years, but still, every once in a while, my wife will look at me and be like, "Fix your face," because my depleting people battery will show right here. And she's like, "Fix your face. We're not done here yet."
I love that. Fix your face. I'm stealing that one.
Okay,
Abby.
yeah,
like
you can borrow it. Yeah, go for it.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
What's the weirdest habit you have when you're stressed?
So I gesticulate a lot with my hands, but whenever I do get stressed, like they pretty much come like right here, and I start rubbing the palm of my hand with my thumb. Like that's whenever I'm like, okay, I don't really know what because I am an introvert. Like I feel socially anxious from time to time, and so like if I don't like have a clear-cut purpose or a role in an environment, like, I really don't know what to do.
Yeah.
Like, so, like, if I'm invited to a meeting or to something, like, if I can't see, like, my purpose there, like, I feel very out of place. And so, I typically, I get kind of quiet. I don't really say much because I just start watching the people in the room, gauging, like, the dynamics of things. But my hands go to, like, this position right here, and then I just start rubbing my palm with my thumb.
Yeah.
That's a dead giveaway for Hedrick is not feeling very comfortable.
Mine's similar. I get just kind of fidgety. I'll do the foot tapping thing. Anyways, you know what I'm talking about.
Throw your foot up on the table and start tapping it.
I did think about it. Perhaps I was like, how can I? Yeah, all right. Anyways, you know what I'm talking about. Or like, I feel like I don't know what to do with my hands, so I'll stick them in and out of my pockets. Yes. I'll do this number. I'll like start scratching the back of my head, scratch my ear, like all those things. So
yeah. I'm curious to put that one in the Facebook group and see what people come up with.
Yeah.
See what they actually put. Favorite fable. Like, because we're going to be looking at parables. Those are fictitious stories to kind of elicit something. And so what fables very much do the same thing.
I'm going to take a little bit of a different spin on this one.
Okay.
Because I think my favorite fable is the game Fable. Have you played Fable?
I have not.
Oh, so it was a PC game when I played it in the early 2000s probably. And it was combined some like fairy tale elements kind of. But it was like an RPG, a role player game.
Yeah.
So it was really cool. I don't know if it holds up now. I know for a fact people are still playing it. Like they've remastered it and all those things. So people are still playing it. But I mean, it was awesome. Like it was legit back in the day.
I've not played that one. I'm looking to get into like the Jedi Survivor one from Star Wars that came out a few years ago, but I'm still stuck on Red Dead Redemption 2. Ooh. Like that map is just massive, and there's so much detail to it. Like I'm just stuck on this game. Like, it's just super fun. My favorite fable, I couldn't come up with one, but I do have two. One, the tortoise and the hare. Like, slow and steady wins the race. Like, everybody's kind of heard that one where, the tortoise and the hare are getting ready to race. The tortoise just takes off and is just booking it. And then decides, I've got so much time, I'm so far ahead, I'm going to take a nap, like posts up under a tree, snoozes, and then the tortoise just keeps on going, slow and steady, passes the hare, wins the race, and then, so slow and steady wins the race. The other one would probably be the goose that laid the golden egg. So in this one, like a farmer and his wife, like I think they just woke up one morning and their goose was laying a golden egg. And it would lay one every day. And so, over time, he was just like, man, I just had all the eggs. I wish it was laying more than one. And so he kills the goose, cuts it open, hoping that it was just going to be filled with golden eggs, and found that it was just like a goose like none other. So, like, his greed, like, just made him just lose everything.
Right.
So I think those are the two that always come to mind whenever I think of, like, Aesop's fables.
Yeah.
Like, I used to read those to my kids whenever they were little.
Yeah, I think I had a book of those growing up too. Maybe a couple of books. Anyways, so we're talking about parables.
Yep.
And we'll get into how Jesus used them as a way to communicate when he had an important message to send. When you have something important to communicate, what's your go-to strategy? What's your method?
I'm fairly direct. I didn't used to be that way. Like, I used to try to just beat around the bush, hint at what I actually wanted to say, and then just hope the other person would somehow be able to glean what I was trying to say in just some weird roundabout way. Or that's not going to work. Like, that doesn't work for me. It's not fair to them for me just to beat around the bush and say all sorts of things other than what I want them to know, or what I'm trying to communicate, and then just hope they either read my mind or figure it out with the various clues I'm trying to give. So no, it's, hey, this is what I'm thinking, this is what I'm feeling, and then just direct, not in a jerkish fashion, but like, just, hey, this is what I'm thinking, this is what I'm feeling, and this is what I need you to know. So it's easier just to be direct. It saves a whole lot of time, anger, frustration, all the things. It's
funny that you mentioned both of those, because I think I kind of bounce back and forth between the two. But it's probably like an 80-20 split. The 80% is direct. The caveat here is it doesn't say anything about it being a good strategy.
Yes.
Just that it's the strategy.
That is what I did, and that's where I learned does not work.
Right. So the 80% is probably super direct. It can be a little bit like I'm walking in swinging a baseball bat. Sometimes, if I'm just being honest, like I will often process something with my wife, and I'm like, I'm just gonna go tell him, and she's like, what if you didn't? What if you thought about how you said it for a minute before you just went and told him? That might be a good idea. So that's the 80%. The 20% is exactly what you were saying. I just basically avoidance behavior, because I don't really want to like say whatever it is I need to. So I just, I'll do it later. I'll tell them, but not really, and then get mad when they haven't read my mind and don't know exactly what I'm saying. Yeah, exactly. So, yep.
No, I've found that just does not work, and I went a long time with the beat around the bush and say all the things except for what I actually want somebody to know.
Right.
And I've also had to learn how to be direct, but to your point, like, watch your face or fix your face.
Fix your face.
Like, sometimes, like, I don't realize what my actual nonverbal cues are saying. Like, so what I think I'm being, I'm going to be very present, very in the moment, like, direct eye contact, all the things. And I'm saying, and in my mind, I'm saying things very calm and in a loving way. And I'm just trying to, like, really figure whatever this thing is or communicate whatever it is, but on my face it looks like I'm about to strangle somebody. and so and I'm just like, okay, so what did you just hear? Well, I heard the words you said, but you delivered them in a very not cool way. Right. And I'm just like, oh, well, my bad. So yeah, it's a trial and error thing.
Yes. I have that struggle too, because and I get really frustrated with this when somebody has something they need to communicate to me, and they won't. Like, I just hear about it from somebody else or whatever.
Yes.
And And so I'm like, why won't they just come talk to me? And I like to think I'm a fairly approachable guy, but my wife keeps me in check. She's going to love this episode, by the way. She keeps me in check. She's like, fix your face. You'd be more approachable if it wasn't for your face. There it is. So full circle.
There's only so little you can do with that.
That's what I'm saying.
My face is my face. Like,
I don't know what my face is doing. I can't see it. So, anyways.
If I did, I would fix the thing. Like, soften your eyes. Well, what does that mean?
What the heck? What does that mean? All right.
Yeah. Someone in the chat will let us know.
Yeah.
All right. So we're going to be looking. We each brought a parable to this. So Jesus told some parables, but we got Pastor Rob Topher is going to set up what a parable is. Check this out.
In case you don't know, the parable was Jesus' preferred method of teaching, a way for him to use a fictitious story to illustrate a moral or a spiritual lesson. As I mentioned, he teaches 3 of them here, and the last one is probably the most famous of them all.
So Rob set it up right there. Jesus often taught and answered questions with parables, which were just fictitious stories designed to elaborate on or teach a spiritual truth. And so in that message, he went on to talk about the prodigal son, which is the one that we're going to look at now. But that message that Pastor Rob gave there is absolutely, it's fantastic. And one of the reasons why we wanted to use that clip was to highlight that message. Yep. His story is one that everybody should hear. So I'm going to encourage. We got the link to that message in the show notes. I don't think we've ever implored people to go and look at one of the messages, but this one I highly encourage everybody to look at.
For sure.
The prodigal son. This is in Luke. Is it 15?
Yep.
Yep. Luke 15, starting at verse 11. So, and this we're going to just read it, so just stick with us. And he said, there was a man who had 2 sons, and the younger of them said to his father, Father, give me the share of property that is coming to me. And he divided his property between them. So this, we're just going to interject here for a moment.
Yeah.
That's basically that kid. Like, so give me the share of the property that's coming to me. So like that's his inheritance in the future whenever his father dies. That's basically you're dead to me. Mm-hmm. Like, so if you're reading that like in the cultural context of the people that are hearing that, like that's what they're hearing. This younger son saying to his father, you're now dead to me. I want what's coming to me down the line and I'm out of here.
Yep.
Like that you're seeing a heartbroken father.
Yeah.
There.
Take it out of the account.
Yes. And
yep.
give it to me now and deuces.
Yep.
So not many days later, the younger son gathered all he had and took a journey into a far country. And there he squandered his property in reckless living. So this is just a young, rambunctious kid, not really thinking about, kid, like a young man. Mm-hmm. Like, let's not like infantilize him. Like, this is a young man.
Yeah.
Took everything that his father gave him, everything that he had coming to him, all of the blessings that were going to be coming in the future, took them all in the moment, squandered them.
The youngest kid. Am I right?
Yeah, I know.
I'm just kidding.
It's always that one. And when he had spent everything, a severe famine arose. Yeah, this kid's just getting the business from all areas. So, and when he had spent everything, a severe famine arose in that country, and he began to be in need. So he went and hired himself out to one of the citizens of that country, who sent him into his fields to feed pigs. And he was longing to be fed with the pods that the pigs ate, and no one gave him anything. So, just continuing to look at the cultural context.
Yep.
Like, those people, the ancient Israelites, they didn't really do anything with pigs or bovine or any of the things like that. He's kind of sank pretty low here.
Yeah.
Like, he's out there working with what's considered unclean animals. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, there's something also to be taken into account there. So we got a guy who basically said, Dad, you're dead to me. I want everything that's coming to me later. And then he went and wasted it. Then a famine come, and so now he's hired himself out to, a Gentile non-believer, and now he's out there working with pigs, wishing that he was actually having food that the pigs were getting fed with, and nobody would give him anything.
Yeah. I mean, that's like the lowest of the low right there.
Yes.
Like, just anything to stop him from being hungry, basically.
Yes.
Like, whatever he could get his hands on.
He's after it.
Yeah.
But when he came to himself, he said, "How many of my father's hired servants have more than enough bread? But I perish here with hunger. I will arise and go to my father, and I will say to him, Father, I've sinned against heaven and before you. I am no longer worthy to be called your son. Treat me as one of your hired servants." And he arose and came to his father. But while he was still a long way off, his father saw him and felt compassion, and ran and embraced him and kissed him. And the son said to him, "Father, I've sinned against heaven." Exactly what he said he was going to say. "I've sinned against heaven and before you. I am no longer worthy to be called your son." But the father said to his servants, "Bring quickly the best robe, put it on him, put a ring on his hand and shoes on his feet, and bring the fattened calf and kill it, and let us eat and celebrate. For this my son was dead and is alive again. He was lost and is found," and they began to celebrate. So he just said, I got to repent.
Mm-hmm.
I need to turn away from what I'm doing. My father is good. He loves me. He cares for me. And if nothing else, like, if I can just go and serve him and be as one of his servants, even if I'm not worthy, even though he doesn't feel worthy to be called his son anymore.
Yeah. I think you might expect, like, when he goes back to his father, for the father to be, look at this. well, kind of deal.
Like Michael Scott, by how the turntables have turned.
Yeah, but the complete opposite. I mean, not only is he happy to see him, but runs to him, like runs to greet him. So I think it's pretty awesome.
And it also kind of reads like the father's waiting and watching.
Right. Yeah.
You know, like it says here in, and he arose and came to his father, but while he was still a long way off, his father saw him. Mm-hmm. Like it brings that to mind to me.
Right.
And then here in the last part, now his older son, remember it started out with a man that had, man had two sons.
Yep.
Now his older son was in the field, and as he came and drew near to the house, he heard music and dancing, and he called one of the servants and asked what these things meant. And he said to him, "Your brother has come, and your father has killed the fattened calf, because he has received him back safe and sound." But he was angry and refused to go in. His father came out and entreated him, but he answered his father, "Look, these many years I've served you, and I never disobeyed your command, yet you never gave me a young goat, that I might celebrate with my friends. But when this son of yours came..."
When this son of yours came. Yep.
not my brother. When this son of yours... I imagine it with a finger point.
Oh, yeah. 100%.
"But when this son of yours came, who has devoured your property with prostitutes, you killed the fattened calf for him. And he said to him, 'Son, you are always with me, and all that is mine is yours. It was fitting to celebrate and be glad, for this your brother..." He turned it back on him, said, "Whoop. Remember," like a reverse back to you situation in Uno. And he said to me, "So you are always with me, and all that mine is yours. It was fitting to celebrate and be glad, for this your brother was dead and is alive. He was lost and is found." I mean, it's a short story.
Yep.
A couple questions that always come to mind. Which son do you identify with, and why?
That's a great question. I think I won't give the cop-out answer and say I couldn't relate to both. There have been times in my life where I could relate to both, although that is true. I think probably the younger son. We've talked about how I didn't grow up in church, and so I've strayed away from the father. I, took my inheritance and ran off and was living recklessly and did my own thing and all those things. But despite, all of that, when it was time for me to come home, the father was there waiting.
Yes.
He saw me coming and was waiting there with open arms and a robe and a ring and all those things. So picking out of the two, I would say the younger son.
Very much so. Mm-hmm. Like whenever I first read this, whenever I was first a believer, first came to Jesus, and I started getting into the Word and reading the Bible, I was like, man, I see me in that. Mm-hmm. Like someone that just ran off, did all the things, squandered everything back, didn't feel worthy.
Yeah.
to come and call God Father. And, and he was just like, no, like just like here, saw me coming mile a ways. But has there ever been a time where you've related to the older brother?
Absolutely.
Where you're just like, I've been doing this for a long, long time, and I'm here and I'm serving, doing things. And have you ever felt like that kind of, oh, now we're celebrating this guy that kind of went out, did all the terrible things, and now we're welcoming him home and celebrating, killing a calf and all the things?
Yeah, I think that's human nature. I think, you can always look at somebody and be like, well, what did they do to deserve this?
Yes.
Like, they did this, and this wrong, and we're just going to act like none of that happened,
Yes.
That kind of thing. Absolutely, yeah.
So we can see where we are, but I think one of the things that sometimes gets overlooked, and it really jumped out to me here when the older brother referred to him as your son. And then the father here, like, no, that's your brother. I don't think I've ever that really jumped out to me in this particular reading. Yeah. So it kind of, I think the next time I feel older brother kind of building up in me, like, I mean, if it, I'm sure it's happened to y'all too. Like, we're just saying it, like, I mean, real talk. just like in the intro, that's your brother.
Yeah.
Like, that's how God views all of us. And so I think that perspective, I don't think that's ever really leapt out to me before in a way that it is like now. Yeah.
I'm noticing that it reads like the older brother believes that there's only enough favor that the father has for one or the other, one at a time. So because the younger brother has favor, that means I don't anymore.
Yes.
And what the father actually says is, son, you are always with me, and all that is mine is yours. Meaning, there's room for both. There's room for everybody.
And that same grace, that same love, that same compassion, those same blessings, those same gifts, like, they're always there. Like, all's the son, like, it kind of reads like you never asked.
Yeah.
Like, you want a goat? God bless. Go get a goat.
Yeah.
Like, do your thing. Like, it reads like had he ever asked for it.
Yeah. It's like we said in the David episode, or David Part 2, when Nathan goes to David and confronts him, and God says through Nathan to David, I gave you all the kingdoms, I gave you, this, and that, and if that wasn't enough, I would have given you more.
Anything that you would have asked for. And that's very much here. I think, I think this shows, I think sometimes we really start looking into the brothers, but we forget, like, what this actually teaches us about God and how he views us.
Yeah.
Like, I imagine, like we talked about when we first was at the top of this, like, he basically was saying, you're dead to me.
Yeah.
Like, but did he bring him back with the, how the turntables have turned, like, all of, or that kind of thing? Like, no. Like, God was like, hey, like, he's back, he's found. And if you go back and you look at some of the other parables, like, that's before this one, like, that's kind of what he's talking about, like, the lost being found.
Yeah.
We can always come home.
Right.
Like, and that's very much what God is saying. What I think God is saying, and it tells us about who he is. When we do go off, when we do go astray, when we do take our blessings or whatever gifts he's given us and squanders them, like, there was earthly consequences of that. Like, he went out, he had to, he was clearly hungry. He was wishing he was eating the feed that the pigs were getting. So I'm sure he did a whole lot of things while he was gone. Like, and there's probably going to be consequences as a result of that. But God was like, come home.
Yeah.
Just happy that you're home.
Yeah, I was thinking that too. The story ends off, and we don't get the conversation that happens after the party. That's probably like, hey, we should probably talk about how this all went down. But, like, in the moment where he returns home, the most important thing, the thing that's important in that moment is that he's home.
He's home.
Period.
And any parent could relate to that. But that also shows us how we should treat, those around us and our kids as well. I think we kind of talked about the main point of this. It's about welcoming him home. God's got enough grace and forgiveness and love for all of us. I think it allows us to put ourselves in both positions. Like, I mean, a cop-out answer would just be, I can relate to both. And then you just move on. But like, delving into, like, the things that would cause you to feel that way, like, the older brother, kind of like what you mentioned, like if he's got it, then there's not going to be enough for me. And that's a very human thing.
Absolutely.
Like I've been here doing the right thing forever and nobody's having a party for me. You know?
Yeah.
I think it allows us to put ourselves in both positions, and then also gives us kind of a measuring stick about how we should treat others. Like the older brother should have been happy that not just that his father's son was home, but but that his brother was home. Right. And I think that really shows how we should relate to one another inside the church.
Yeah, for sure. I think we have all been in one of these spots or the other at some point in time. And so because we have been in both spots, we should be able to relate to the other one, the other spot. You know what I mean?
Yes.
So, yeah.
All right. So that's kind of just a short conversation on how the parables on that particular parable has related to both of us. But we want to hear what you guys have, what you guys think about those in the comments and in the chat there. And so, Ellis, what do you got?
Got another one. This one is from the book of Matthew. This is one of my favorite scriptures in the Bible. Like, not just parables, scriptures, period. So, Matthew chapter 7, starting in verse 24. Therefore, everyone who hears these words of mine and puts them into practice is like a wise man who built his house on the rock. The rain came down, the streams rose, and the winds blew and beat against that house, yet it did not fall, because it had its foundation on the rock. But everyone who hears these words of mine and does not put them into practice is like a foolish man who built his house on sand. The rain came down, the streams rose, and the winds blew and beat against the house, and it fell with a great crash.
We got a little experiment for this one.
We do.
All right, let's set that up. Now, what's cool about the wise and foolish builders is like we can actually demonstrate this for realsies. And I've done this at what we have called Mega Camp upstairs. Every summer we do this. So I've actually done this with 5 and 6 year olds. So
nice.
we're actually going to do it right here for dramatic effect.
Science.
We've got some sand. We got a little Christmas ornament house and a rock. So, all right, safety first. There we go. Boom. All right.
Never know what's going to happen. It might get crazy. I don't know.
All right, Ellis, let's see it.
Okay, so this house built on sand, rain and streams. Here we go.
The calamities and the vexations
I've
and
been
all
told
the
to
things.
pour very slowly. Oh, gosh. I'm just scared. Here goes nothing.
And there it goes. Oh! And that's what happens when you're a foolish builder and you build your life on sand.
With a great crash.
Yes.
There it goes. All right.
All right, so now let's take the house, shake the sand out of it here, as thus, and we'll set it on the rock.
Okay.
All right, Ellis.
Here we go.
There we go. Look at that foundation.
Still standing.
Still standing.
Still standing.
All the vexations and all the calamities and all the things. Can't knock it down. Can't be knocked down.
There
Won't
you
be
go.
knocked down.
Are we still raining?
Nope, still raining. Keep it going.
Still standing.
Can't be stopped. Won't stop. And that's a dramatic rendering of the wise and foolish builders.
Science.
It's all about safety first.
Of course. Yep. That was fun.
That was fun.
Okay, so after our demonstration, so this parable is basically saying there are two kinds of people: those whose hearts are revealed in what they decide to make their foundation, what are they going to build their lives on. The parables, they're kind of divided into, you can kind of divide them into categories, right?
Yep.
So this one is what we call an
Eschatological.
Thank you. Say it again.
Eschatological.
Eschatological. I knew I was going to butcher it. There you go. Michael came in clutch. That's kind of one of the categories, and those are the ones that kind of deal with death and the afterlife, heaven and hell, resurrection, things like that. Some of the other categories are like hearing, seeking, and growing, loss and redemption, love and forgiveness, prayer. And there are some that, kind of are in a category of their own, but if you went through, you could divide them up like that. So I really like this commentary that I found from a guy named John Chrysostom. Chrysostom. There we go. John Chrysostom. He was an early church father who served as the Archbishop of Constantinople. And here's a little bit of what he said. By rain here and floods and winds, he is expressing metaphorically the calamities and afflictions that befall men, such as false accusations, plots, bereavements, deaths, loss of friends, vexations from strangers.
You ever been vexed?
Wow. Fancy word. I don't think so.
Just curious.
I'll have to ponder that one after we're done. All the ills in our life that anyone could mention, but to none of these, says he, does such a soul give way, and the cause is, it is founded on the rock. He calls the steadfastness of his doctrine a rock, because in truth, his commands are stronger than any rock, setting one above all the waves of human affairs. So, I think, first of all, I'm curious, what do you think makes for a firm foundation versus one that'll crumble, kind of like we saw with the sand?
Yeah, so whenever, I look at the word, like what Jesus says, whoever builds, so it's not just enough, like you can hear things and not actually act on them or put them into practice. And I think what Jesus is getting at there is, like, if you don't just hear what I'm saying, but if you actually do what I'm saying, if you actually live according to the principles that I'm outlining, that Jesus taught people to live their lives by, whenever things do come, plots, bereavements, deaths, loss, like anything that that we encounter just by nature of living in a fallen world with fallen people, like, and dealing with like struggles, addictions, sins, vices, like all of the things, and then just trying to live in right relationships with people, kind of like what we talked about with the prodigal one. Like, if you actually do what Jesus says, like, that's the foundation of your life. Like, the foundation that you should build your life on is Jesus and what he taught us. But you actually have to do it to have that foundation.
Yeah. Part of what I love about this one is that it's has a healthy measure of conviction in there, because it's not enough to just read or to just hear it in church or whatever. You have to find a way to put this in action. It's not something you can just be like, yes, I'm going to build my life on Jesus.
I believe in Jesus.
Good.
Full stop. Yep. Like, and then nothing happens after.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you have to like put the things in place. So what do you think if there's somebody watching or listening to this who they're like, I want to do that, or I want to at least learn more about how I can do that? What's an action they can take to do that?
There's a couple, like, but if I always say, like, a good first step is to actually start reading it, and I think that's one, like, actually start reading the Bible. Yeah, like, not just take it for granted what someone else has told you or what you think you know. Like, start with the book of Mark or Matthew. Like, read one gospel and then the rest of the New Testament. I think what a lot of people find is, like, what they thought they knew, they actually didn't. They actually don't know. Or what they thought they knew was kind of a skewed version of the truth itself. Nothing. I've never been more convicted than whenever I'm actually spending time in the Bible. Like, ooh, I'm not getting that right. I think that's where the Holy Spirit speaks a lot to me. So just reading it and then trying to do the things. And then after that, find a group of people where you can actually talk about what you're reading together. Yeah.
I agree. I would even take it a step further, or maybe just switch out the word and say, read it to interpret, not just to read it.
Yes.
I think.
Well, I think that's. Yeah, no, that's a good point. Like, that's fair. Like, because I think whenever you just try to, if you're just reading a book, that's a passive thing.
Sure. Yeah.
But if you read it with the intention of growing closer to God and having your life changed, that does change the way you approach the Bible itself.
Yeah. I think it can be a little bit of an oversimplification to say just read it, because we read things differently.
Yes.
If we're just being 100% honest, like, we all read the terms and conditions, which means you just scroll down to the bottom, or you can hit the button and go to the next screen. Okay, if you do that, that's not putting it into practice. Yeah. But if you read it to interpret it, that is a step towards putting it into action. I have a Bible over there. I'm not going to get up to get it because
our chairs are kind of
wonky. It would. Yeah, you don't want to see that. Anyways, where I have like a bunch of notes in there. That's the Bible I had when I first started reading the Bible. And I literally took the Bible, and I had a notepad, and I went verse by verse, and I was like, what do I think this means? because that's how I wanted to break it down to try to really absorb it. And sometimes the answer was, I don't know. I have pages in there where I wrote, I don't know, and went to the next one. But as you go, you kind of get in that habit, and then you can even go revisit some of the ones where you said, I don't know. And they'll start to make more sense.
Or just say, like, how do I actually apply this? Like, that's where I think a good study Bible comes into play. But also whenever you read it, like, if you feel prompted by the Holy Spirit to do something, and, like, you should do it. Like, one of the things, I think I mentioned it here before, but, like, my summer of squashing beefs, like, that started because I read in Matthew where Jesus said, you know, you'll be forgiven as much as you forgive others. And I knew that I needed to be forgiven a whole lot. So what did that mean for me? Like, what you do with it? I had to have a whole lot of weird, awkward, sometimes just difficult conversations where I needed to make amends with people, apologize to people that I knew that I had wronged. And then, like, in some cases, like, I needed to have conversations where I told the person to their face, like, I forgive you for this. And then sometimes it just meant, like, processing the things that they had done to me and then releasing it. Or another one would be, like, where Jesus talked about serving the least of these. Like, I was in prison and you came in and visited me. I was hungry and you gave me food. Like, that to me sparked a season where I spent, like, almost 3 years doing charitable things all over the county in Central Virginia because I knew that I felt like that was something that I needed to be doing. But whatever you're reading, it needs to be through the lens of what is God trying to teach me here that I need to work on, and what areas do I need to grow in.
Yeah. I think for me, like, when I was starting out, it was as simple as I'm going to go to church to learn and grow closer to God. Because straight up, when I first started going, I was like, oh, it's a cool place where my friends are. and that could be it, you know. But I think where things changed, where I kind of turned the corner, was like, I'm going to go to learn and absorb what they're saying and figure out how can this apply to my life. So,
but that way, to take it back to the parable, all of that is done to grow closer to God and to become more secure in your faith. Not to just go out and be doing, like, not to be seen at church, not just to be doing the charitable things, to be like, oh, look at me, this is awesome, like, I'm so amazing. Like, it's all because we're to love God and love others. So when we're reading Scripture, it should propel us to some sort of action, whether it's to work on ourselves in certain areas or to reflect God's loves to others. But through all of that, we grow in our faith, and we grow in our foundation of faith in God, so that way when things do come, or we are tempted to go one way or the other, we're able to stand tall because we know who God is and we know who we are in relation to Him. And so that, to me, is like the foundation.
Yeah, I agree. I want to go back to the categories really quick. Because I mentioned this is in the eschatological category. I got it this time. Third time's the charm. These categories are not in the Bible. These are made up by people. Like, I've looked at a couple of different sources and found them sorted this way. So, take it for what it's worth, I guess. But I found it interesting that this one was in a category about death and the afterlife, heaven and hell, resurrection, things like that. Because to me, it reads as very much, apply this to your life right now. Like, this is how to live your daily life right now. But the way I kind of read it, I was trying to connect the dots. Basically, I was like, why does this belong in this category? I think it's setting the foundation for your life here on this side of heaven, but also kind of building the path to where you're going to go after. I'm just curious, what do you think about that?
I hadn't thought of it in those terms. Like, I said that whenever we got ready to do this part of it. But if you look at it in the terms of, like, life doesn't end here.
Right.
So where are you going to go, like, on the other side of death? Is your house still going to be standing? Or is the calamity and the floods and the winds and the rain going to cause it to just end in disaster and fall over and collapse? If it's built on a foundation, like, whenever death does come, like, you're still going to be standing tall, you're going to be with God, you're going to be living in His presence. And if you don't, your house is going to be knocked over and in pieces.
Yeah.
And so, like, I do kind of see the connection now between the two.
Well, I didn't think about it till just looking at it just now, but your house also is not just limited to you.
Yes.
Your house can endure beyond your time here. It could be whether it's your friends, your family, your kids, grandkids, whatever. Like, you choosing to build your foundation on this could have an impact on the people
Yes.
who come after you as well.
Yes.
So,
all right.
Cool.
Well, there we go. That's the parable of, or that's the prodigal son, and that's your house. What is that one actually called? The Wise and Foolish Builders.
Yep.
Where do you want to go? Like, where do we go from here? What do we do? Like, we've read these things. What do you do?
This is where we usually have the clip. Now we're like, what do we do?
Yeah.
We already did the clip.
So I think for me, it's about changing the way that you look at Jesus' stories.
Yeah.
You don't just blow through them. You actually take your time to see where you are in them and allow them to convict you and show you on how you need to grow. Like, I think for me, that's kind of where, like, after doing this episode, and because I had never thought about the Wise and Foolish Builders having, like, thinking about that in the terms of the afterlife as well. Like, that was new for me.
Yeah.
And so I think that's, and I've never heard of, like, these types of categories for them. So I think whenever I go and I look at them, you know, whenever I'm spending time in one of them, I think I'm going to see kind of where they fit and see if that changes the way that I look at those and read them, and then see what the potential impacts like, kind of see what the potential impact would that have for me looking at them and reading them.
Yeah. I think just about parables as a overall thing, some of them, like when I read them today, I'm still like, I don't get this. I don't know what this means. So I think it can be, they can be difficult waters to navigate. But when I'm feeling like that, when I'm reading one that doesn't quite make sense, I often fall back on, out of all the ways Jesus could have communicated what he was trying to communicate, out of all the ways that Jesus taught what he was trying to teach us, this is the way he chose to do it. And so I that makes it feel like there's a weight and a gravitas to it, and I should approach it with that same mindset.
And to kind of even go off of what the older son, or what the father told what the father told the older son, you know, all of that I have is yours to ask. Like, so sometimes it might mean, like, God, show me what you want me to learn from this, and then just chew on it and go back and read it again.
Yeah.
Until something does finally click. I think that's often overlooked. Like, God invites us to ask him for what we want. And so if you really want to learn something from one of these, there's absolutely nothing wrong with just saying, God, show me what you want me to learn here.
Yeah. I think, you know, Bible reading plans are great, and especially if you're starting out, they're a great way to start out. I do think there's something to be said for sitting with one piece of Scripture and, you know, revisiting it and meditating on it, and trying to glean the meaning for your life from it. So,
Absolutely. And I think that's a good place to wrap up. So I think this was a great episode.
Yeah, this was fun.
And leave us a review, and we'll read it, and we'll get you one of our awesome mugs, and we'll see you next week for another episode of The After Chat.
Thanks for joining us for The After Chat. If you enjoyed this episode, share it with others, post about it on social media, or leave a rating and review. To be the first to hear our next episode, be sure to hit the subscribe button and get notifications for new content. You can also follow us on social media on Instagram at PCC Wired and Facebook at Passion Community Church. For additional resources and links, check out the description. Thanks again, and we'll see you next time on The After Chat.